Experts say severe weather is becoming more extreme because of climate change. Joining us now to discuss is climatologist Michael E. Mann. He's the author of the book, The New Climate War, The Fight to Take Back Our Planet. He's also the lead author of the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report on climate, which came out last month and spelled out some very dire predictions about the future. Michael, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your expertise. I know you've heard a number of prominent voices on certain media outlets that have mocked the connection that experts such as yourself have made between these extreme weather events and climate change. So for those that are still skeptical about the effects of climate change, what's your message? How do we know that these fires and hurricanes are a result of a warming planet?
Yeah, thanks, Boris. It's good to be with you. And the science here is very solid. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, which you mentioned in their latest report, really connected the dots in a way that previous reports hadn't. And in large part, it has to do with the level of sophistication of the science now, where we can do what's known as detection and attribution. It's a fancy way of saying we can do sort of a before-after comparison with the climate models. We run the climate models without the increase in carbon pollution from fossil fuel burning, and we run the same models including that increase in carbon pollution. And we see how often a particular extreme event happens in both cases. And in many of the cases that you're talking about, what we see is that the event is observed to have been astronomically unlikely without the additional warming from human activity. And in the models that include that, we find that these sorts of events are likely to happen. And here's the bad news. What we're seeing now, the models tell us, is baked in. That's what we're going to have to deal with now for years to come. It gets worse if we don't reduce carbon emissions dramatically in the years ahead.
So, Michael, you lay out the science, and it's clear that there's a backing for the arguments that you're making. Stepping aside from your expertise and your experience as a scientist, as a human being, it has to be incredibly frustrating for you to point this out and to be sounding the alarm for decades, and yet there doesn't seem to be the urgency among leadership that is required to meet the moment.
Yeah, and there is a certain level of frustration in seeing your predictions come true. As a climate scientist, the worst thing that can happen is to watch our predictions come true, because decades ago, literally, 30 years ago, the scientific community had already come to the conclusion that we could see the impact of human-caused climate change, and it would get much worse if we didn't take action. And now, decades later, we're saying the same thing. And now what we mean by action is a dramatically different thing. If we had acted decades ago, we could have brought our carbon emissions down fairly gently. We could have sort of gradually moved away from fossil fuels. Now, in order to prevent a truly catastrophic warming of the planet of more than 3 degrees Fahrenheit, we have to bring our carbon emissions down by a factor of 50% within the next 10 years. And that's going to require a monumental effort on our part. There's some signs of progress. The United States has made a very bold pledge to bring its carbon emissions down by that amount within the next 10 years. Other leaders from other countries are now coming to the table. The United States is once leading again on this issue, and that's making a real difference. But there's still a gap between what countries are promising and the policies that they have in place, what we call an implementation gap. We're still building new fossil fuel infrastructure when the conservative International Energy Agency has told us that if we are to avert catastrophic warming of the planet, there can be no new fossil fuel infrastructure, no new pipelines, no new coal-fired power plants.
And Michael, paint a picture for us of what the future looks like. If what we're seeing now is this Category 5 hurricane that floods Louisiana and then winds up also flooding the Northeast, what can we expect with that 3-degree shift that you were talking about?
Yeah, if we warm the planet more than 1.5 degrees Celsius or 3 degrees Fahrenheit, then we know these storms will become even more intense, even more damaging, because there's a pretty basic physical relationship. The energy that intensifies these storms and provides them with all this moisture that leads to the flooding rainfall that we've seen comes from the heat content of the ocean. And the heat content of the ocean this year was higher than any other year. That extra heat is fueling these stronger storms. And, this storm almost, if it had a little bit longer, would have become a Cat 5 storm. It would have landfalled as a Category 5 storm. Here's the thing. We are going to need to define new categories. Category 6 storms, storms with winds of 200 miles per hour or greater sustained. Arguably, that's a Category 6 storm, and we're already starting to see those.
Michael, there is intense debate on Capitol Hill, not just between Democrats and Republicans, but even within the Democratic Party about the urgency with which to approach the issue of climate change. What's your message to lawmakers?
Yeah, I would say there are a couple stragglers right now in the Democratic Party. In order to get meaningful climate action, unfortunately, Republicans are unwilling to act. Democrats are going to get that legislation through on a purely partisan basis. And that's going to mean all 50 Democrats voting for this reconciliation package that has meaningful climate action. The infrastructure bill itself right now is very skimpy when it comes to the central challenge we face, the climate crisis. But the reconciliation bill would provide a whole lot more funding for renewable energy. It would provide incentives in the form of what's known as a clean power portfolio standard, which would require utilities to meet up to 80% of their electricity generation from renewables alone within a decade or so. So we need real climate policy in the form of legislation that will codify some of the things that the administration is trying to do through executive actions. Executive actions by the Biden administration alone aren't going to be enough. We need climate legislation, and we need that infrastructure package to pass Congress with climate action intact.
Yeah, and as we talk about the death toll from Hurricane Ida, as we watch these fires along the West Coast, and we think about just the damage that this is doing and the damage that it will continue doing in the future, given your warnings, I hope people heed your messages. Michael.